So is your smartwatch making you crazy? Are you thinking it's a bad idea after all? Well, join me as I hike through what is definitely not a mountain in Livermore. It's more like a trail. And we'll go for a little walk and talk, okay? Now, I have had a smartwatch for probably 10 years at least. And it started off as a real innocent, exciting health endeavor, to which I thought, well, this will push me to hit certain numbers and stay consistent. And for a long time, it did. I had just like a basic Fitbit. Like, it was nothing extraordinarily fancy. I think I spent like $99 on it, okay? And I used it for a little while, and it really helped me in my bodybuilding career because I realized how little I was moving through the day, right? Even as a personal trainer, owning a business, having 3 kids, I do a lot of sitting, which I'm sure some of you can relate if you have, office jobs or your job isn't very active. So when I hired my first coach, that was one of the metrics he wanted us to track as far as being competitors. So this was great, right? Like, I love a fucking to-do list. Like, you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm a robot, right? If I know that somebody has done something, they've tried something, have experience with it themselves and are successful, and they tell me to do something, I have no right to think I know better because I've never done that thing, right? So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And hint, that goes for a lot of things, FYI. So this was it, right? This is how the 10,000 steps idea was born in my world. I don't know how you came to learn of it, but this is how I came to learn of it. So that became one more thing to add to my fitness repertoire of tracking and making sure I was staying on track with my goals, which were 9 times out of 10 to lose body fat, lose scale weight. So that was great. Now, there have been times where I feel like in the past, it became a little obsessive, right? And listen, bodybuilding, for what it's worth, you have to be OCD with your shit. Like, if you want to be good, you literally have to, and maybe OCD is a far-fetched word to use for this, but I think you know what I'm saying. You have to be incredibly regimented, disciplined, consistent, strategic, and not fuck up because you are on a timeline, right? You're on a timeline. Usually you know when your competition is and you're working backwards from there. So I had to be obsessive. I had to make sure I did not go to bed until I had 10,000 steps, right? So that has continued on for many, 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 many years. Okay. I think I would love to pull up my data and just see what over the course of at least my new Garmin I've had for 5 years. Well, it's not new anymore. What my Garmin says as far as my averages up until this point. But over the last year, maybe a little bit longer, honestly, I have found myself less and less concerned with the obsession around my smartwatch, right? Like, and let me clarify, like, oh my God, I'm not wearing it. My steps don't count. I don't know what my heart rate is. And, these freakouts. And I think it just became a matter of I think I had gone on a trip and like forgotten it or something. And it dawned on me because I think at one point I went to like look at my watch and realized it wasn't on my arm. It dawned on me that I didn't have my watch on, and like I started to really get mindful about my thoughts around it, which sounds crazy and weird. And I don't think at the time I realized that was what I was doing, but it then started to release the pressure from my brain of that taking up mental real estate. And I was like, okay, like I don't even have to think about it, right? Like I don't have to be like, oh, how many steps do I have? Oh, how many steps do I have? Like I'm not stupid. Okay, I know when I have or haven't walked for the day because I sit all day. So for me now, like I wear it, obviously to tell the time, conveniently if like my phone isn't glued to my side, which is hardly ever, but the time, and, it conveys messages to my phone or to my watch, or that, then obviously looking at it just as an overall, like, okay, where am I at for the day? Right. So now I don't obsess over it. The strategy I use now is ideally I would like to get 6,000 to 8,000 steps. And you're probably wondering, why are you going down in steps? Well, friends, because for many, many months as I moved into my new lovely little neighborhood here, I was sitting, and we were in the middle of the launch for the Goddess Body Project, which some of you may be in right now. And I was working behind my laptop 14 to 16 hours a day, and some months 7 days a week. And so, and it wasn't just that, it's, I run several businesses and so on and so forth. So I was looking down and realizing most days I was getting like 3,000 steps. Now, I'm sure your next question is, well, did you gain weight? Like, what happened? Spoiler alert, I have not gained a pound, okay? So I'm not saying don't track your steps or don't focus on getting steps, or that even 3,000 steps a day is okay, because it's not. The reason why I know that I maintained my weight is because while I was glued to said laptop, most of the time I wasn't eating very structured or timely. And so I would get to the evening and realize I've had breakfast and maybe a protein bar or a protein shake. And at this point, it's like 7 p.m. So, and by that point, I'm not going to feel good going to bed with like trying to force myself to eat a bunch of calories. So my body my appetite just auto adjusted to my level of activity, which is so crazy to me because that is not something I thought that I could do, right? Like being held captive, what feels like for so long, mentally with your diet through bodybuilding. I thought like my body's not smart anymore, right? Like this is the story I was telling myself. Like, my body's just like so used to relying on me to push it to do what it needs to do, or eat even though I didn't want to eat, or eat more than I needed to eat. So many crazy things. See where I'm going? I'm spiraling here. But it's just a testament to say that I feel like I have worked myself through some very, very unhealthy eating behaviors that were tied to what I needed to do to get through my competition preps. Okay. And that's a very vulnerable and bold thing for me to share here, but I can reckon that a lot of you who are listening, who are bodybuilders, who have competed before, maybe have been in like some kind of pageant, or maybe you were a model, or maybe you were a dancer who was expected to be a certain size. Like you can fucking relate, right? You be knowing what I'm talking about. and probably even those of you that haven't done some of those things, because I know that we are plagued with comparison and trying to be like people we think have it all together. And that sometimes comes with a cost of these similar mental scars. So all that to say, don't let your smartwatch make you dumb, okay? You are smart. You are not stupid. And you know when you are not sitting enough and when you are sitting too much, right? I feel like I went from one extreme to another. I went from, I don't sit the fuck down, to now I can't get the fuck up because I got shit to do. So if you feel like your smartwatch is making you obsessive and you are, you freak out and it like if it ruins your mood in any stretch of the imagination, we need to talk, right? Like your smartwatch and the feedback it's giving you should not ruin your day. It just shouldn't. And freak you out or feel like you have to go to some unnecessary means to meet your step goal. And, I guess the same could be said for being obsessive about your heart rate too. For those of you that have exercised several times in your life, when you get on a machine, when you're putzing around. All right, let's be real. You know when you're fucking putzing around. You also know when you're about to fucking die, okay? Common motherfucking sense. So if you are doing leisurely cardio, you're putzing. You're just good. You're putzing. You're just doing low key, trying to get some action. If you are dying on a machine, you're not going to sustain that for very long. So you're probably doing something like HIIT or sprints or, some kind of plyometric, something like that. And your level of death there, right? Like 10 is like, you're sucking back, you can barely suck back any wind and you feel like you're going to throw up. And you probably want to be at like a 7 or an 8 for that, right? And when you can start to trust that you know what that feels like, there's less obsession over numbers. So I hope that helps. This was totally off the cuff. I'm on a beautiful walk here on a Saturday and thinking about motivational Monday topics. And I just realized that. And I felt like maybe you needed to hear that today too, And if you're not hanging out with me over on Facebook, listen, I know it's a little archaic. However, I am 46 almost. And most of us grew up on that platform. So if you aren't, that's cool. We're still besties over on the Instagram. But if you were, a late 90s baby like me, come hit me up. Hit me up in the Facebook group. Boss Bitch Besties Fitness Community. I've been doing some lives there and just communicating with my peeps, it's a conversation. The comments get so hairy in Instagram and then you have bots and then, shit dumb guys say. And I'm like, I just need my friends and my selfish little group. So I'd love it if you come join me. And you know what? Go crush your day. Go fucking crush. It's Monday, bitch. It's Monday. Have a Monday attitude and make it a good one. Make it a good boss bitch owning the day attitude. I love you.